Hello, I'm Connie Wray, and I am excited to moderate this very special episode of Talk It Out Tuesday, the Culture Crisis, a Necessary Conversation. Talk It Out Tuesday is a weekly interview series where Crisis Support Services of Nevada partners with experts to dive into the most current issues affecting our community. With the current social pandemic we are in the midst of, we felt very compelled to have an open conversation with community leaders who can really talk about the social injustice. With the death of George Floyd at the hands of law enforcement in Minneapolis, the worst civil unrest in decades has erupted in our country. George Floyd's death has sparked something inside all of us. Our hearts go out to George Floyd and his family. And what we can learn from this is that we can make change. Crisis Support Services is about impacting change. It's about being there for our community. As with everything, times of adversity brings opportunity to come together as a nation and have a necessary conversation about the cultural crisis we are seeing right now. We must move forward and make positive change for everyone. With us today, we have Diaz Dixon. He is the CEO of the Eddy House and a longtime community advocate. Also joining us again, Washoe County Sheriff Darin and Crisis Support Services of Nevada's Executive Director, Rachelle Pellissier. We thank you all for joining us for this very important episode of Talk It Out Tuesday. Diaz, we'd like to start with you first. How has the rioting and the civil unrest impacted you personally?
Connie, it has really been difficult because as you're watching, and particularly speaking as a Black man, the incidents that happen are always painful. But when you watch the riots and the looting, you know that it's not going to move forward towards a progress because there are going to be more and more people impacted and more innocent people impacted. So it was really hard for me that night. And it's one thing to watch it nationally, but when you see it happen in your hometown and in your own backyard for a community that you love, it was tough. I actually cried, and I went to bed early that night and woke up with a really heavy heart.
Sheriff Balaam, I would say that obviously for law enforcement, this has a major impact on them both professionally and personally. Can you talk to us a little bit about how all of this is affecting those in law enforcement right now and how they're dealing with these emotions so that they can also do their jobs?
The first is the unrest, the rioting. A lot of the hate that has kind of overshadowed what we should really be speaking about. All last week, I doubled up my patrol units because we were worried about those individuals wanting to take action in their own hands. So they've been very worried about what would happen going on calls. We've seen it again. Several, I think we're up to 13 law enforcement personnel throughout the nation have been either ambushed or shot over the last week and a half since George Floyd. So on the one hand, it's brought anxiety, but on the other hand, I think it's had a lot of positive impact because it's made us step back and listen, reflect upon where we're at, look at our relationships in the community. Diaz and I have been on numerous Zoom calls, town halls. So on the positive, it's caused us to truly have those tough conversations, look at our internal office, where do we sit in the community? Because ultimately, we serve this community, right? People call us to end the violence. And I said this in my speech, not come inflict the violence. In my career, you never saw law enforcement step out like they should have probably many times before this with George Floyd and say what those four officers did was wrong. But now we're actually seeing change. You're seeing policy changes. You're having these conversations. And that's where we need to continue with these in law enforcement and how we do our daily job is it's about serving our community, getting to know our community, building those relationships because this isn't just our community. This is everybody's community.
If there are community members that are still feeling unsafe or feeling anxiety under these circumstances right now, and they want to have those conversations, but they're not sure how, who do they contact? Is it simply calling Crisis Support Services? Who are some other agencies that they can be talking with so that they can keep the conversation going and we can help them as a community ease a bit of that anxiety that they're feeling?
Reach out through crisis call center or the sheriff's office. We are available. And I think by us going out and having these conversations all the time shows that we want to listen. There's other organizations as well that you can reach out to, NAACP, ACLU, anybody like that then could gap that bridge between that individual or the community and law enforcement, and then we can have these conversations. We are ready. We're moving forward in a positive manner, and let's keep that positivity going and keep our ears open and listen.
I think it's really important that people reach out to community leaders, just as Sheriff was saying. It's important for you to look who is really smart and solid and humble in your own social circles that you might have, as well as your pastors, your churches. And there are a number of community leaders. I am wide open to reach out to me. I would love to have these safe places to have conversation. I am game. We're talking about for the advancement of our community and the advancement for us as individuals and race relations and all the above. Bring it on. Let's go.
We get the calls from everybody, and that includes law enforcement, everyone that this is causing a crisis for. And it shows us very specifically that we are all suffering from the same thing. And when you take a moment, as you talked about, to listen rather than just speak, it enables you to move forward. It enables you to kind of walk in the shoes of other people and see what's driving their activities. The silver lining in all of this is we are speaking. People are reaching out when they're feeling overwhelmed to get help so that we can help them and listen to them and help them to move forward.
Listening. That's what feels different this time. The greater majority, which is white America, and I'll just say white individuals in our community, they're listening and they're asking and they're reaching out to how to do things differently. How can they be a part, help? And it's actually a great community to live in here as well, because as Sheriff was talking about, 8 can't wait. He already has a plan lined up. We have those 8 already in for us, well ahead of the rest of the country. So our leadership is going to have a significant impact on how we heal and how we continue to grow.
I would like to just commend both Diaz and Sheriff Balaam. Number one, Sheriff Balaam, earlier this week, you did give an amazing speech to the graduates from the Northern Nevada Law Enforcement Academy. And I just wanted to say to you, I was so amazed by that speech. It moved me so much because I truly felt that we have an opportunity to make change, that you tackled something that was, I couldn't imagine being someone that is starting my law enforcement career right now. This is a lot, a pandemic, and then to have social unrest. And I just thought it was impactful that you as a leader were setting an example for the next group of law enforcement. And Diaz, for you, I've known you for 20 years and you've always just been a community leader and advocate. But I think right now, being able to have conversations with you, and I highly recommend people to follow Diaz. He's doing daily conversations. I feel exactly what you have said, listening. I'm seeing for the first time ever that we as a community are starting to listen. And with that being said, to both of you, what are some of the solutions that we can join in and move our community and our state and our country forward? And how can we continue as a community to foster this change and to continue to listen? And I'll start with you, Diaz. What can we do right now to continue moving forward for that change?
Thank you, Connie, for those kind words. I have to say that definitely we have to, beyond listening, we need to show that we care. So when we're engaging in conversation and we're going back and forth on both sides, show that you care and engage yourself. Be actively engaged in the conversation that's going on, whether it's a conversation that's going on a community level or breaking it down to one-on-one and creating safe places for us to have those conversations. This right here is a safe place for us to talk about a number of these things. We have to make sure that we're empathetic and that we're not judging one another and being really mindful. So be mindful of what our police department and our law enforcement entities have to go through on a daily basis. Be mindful of the fears that people have when you're pulling them over. Be mindful of what your regular day-to-day activities have been and how they may have been impactful in a negative or positive way. Those are, if I was just listing off a couple of things, I think those things are important and critical.
Law enforcement needs to open their doors up. That's why I told the Academy, you have to get involved. From our side, I had a meeting yesterday with my community engagement group that Diaz graciously, joined, and I'm appreciative of that. And I opened up our training this year for that committee to come in and see exactly what we train. Come in and tour the jail. Come in and see, because prior to even this, I think a lot of people, they watch TV because we know it, and we called it in law enforcement the CSI effect, where they think a crime is solved within 1 hour, or actually I think it's 48 minutes. And that's not the case. So I want for the community to come in. If you have questions, we are listening. We need to continue to listen. We need to learn. We need to have and be able to have, like Diaz said, the ability to take that criticism, take it in, listen to what's being said, because we've been talking, I think, past each other. Listen and learn. Find out, how do we work together? How do we build that trust? How do we show the community that we are here to do the right thing every single time for the right reason, and we want to learn to work together?
One of the most important trainings I took was some training where we had law enforcement come, we had the DA's office come, and we all, what I like to say is, walked in each other's shoes. We were there for 2 days, and we went through a crime from beginning through a trial. And that helped each one of us in each of our organizations learn why and how the other one works. And from that moment on, all of those organizations worked so much more effectively as a team.
This actually happened to me. I won't name the business. Basically, they wrote Black Lives Matter on my cup, somewhere I go every morning. After I saw it, after I pulled out of the drive-thru, I came back and I walked in and I said, obviously somebody wrote on my cup and they were trying to get me a message about, law enforcement. I wanted to hear about it. Let's sit down and have a drink, and you tell me what you've experienced. But I went in to truly listen.
I did something totally out of my comfort zone. I went down to the vigil last Sunday. That was the first Black Lives Matter event I have ever been to. And I wasn't sure what to expect, but what I did walk away with was understanding, compassion, and I knew that I wanted to continue to listen, that was what my job was. It was to focus on what my community needed from me right now. And what my community needs from me is a neighbor that's going to listen and understand. This is another time for us to step up. And if you did have an uncomfortable situation, what can we do as a community to have a conversation to change that?
One of the things that I have done is I've taken a note to make sure anytime I see someone in law enforcement and they're within range for me to have a conversation, I tell them I appreciate them for what they're doing. And so it was very awkward. The very first police officer I was walking up to, because I was nervous, and she turned around and said, "Hey, did you make this phone call?" And I was like, "No, I just came to tell you I appreciate you." And she teared up. So, when there's so many moments of negativity, if we can help pass and spread the positive vibes, it's something that we all have the control to do.
Rachelle, when should someone contact crisis support services?
Anyone who's in pain, who's struggling, should contact Crisis Support Services of Nevada. The family members whose son was stopped by police and hurt, they're struggling, they're hurting, they should get a hold of us. The wife of law enforcement who's worried every moment when her husband goes out to serve our community and the community they live in, she should call us. Anyone who is struggling should get a hold of Crisis Support Services of Nevada. Remember, we have people here 24/7. We want you to call us. We want to help you through those dark hours and through the pain you're feeling right now. Call us.
Please remember that Crisis Support Services of Nevada is a charitable organization helping all Nevadans and people across our nation. You can be a part of helping by making a donation. You can visit the website cssnv.org. Thank you again to Diaz Dixon and Sheriff Darin Balaam for joining us to talk about these very important issues. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for supporting Crisis Support Services of Nevada.